I grew up mountain hiking with my family of origin, and we were in the Carpathian Mountains, and it was lovely backpack hiking. And I remember this very specific vacation. It was August, and up there above the tree line could be pretty cool, but sun was fair, weather was pretty fair, so we were hiking. Well, if you know and have been in the mountains up, the weather can turn really quickly. So it didn't take long until the clouds came up. We were in the middle of a cloud, rain, wind, barely, not a lot of visibility left. And we made it, and we made it, and we made it, and we were hiking, and we were drenched, soaked to the bone. Finally, and thank God, they have right up there on the crest of the mountain for every, 5, 6 hours of hiking, they have refuge places where you can just walk in and to makeshift, no real big shelters, but you just could go in, you were protected. So we ended up walking in. Well, guess what? There were others in there before us. And just to peel off the clothes off, yikes. It was dreadful. But we had made it. And there was something about taking off all the wet clothes, crawling into the sleeping bag, and warming up, cozying up against each other and just waiting for it all to pass, and then to continue to hike. So to have this place, have this refuge, being in that safe place was like, finally we made it. That's a little bit the experience that Psalm 61 is talking about. Take me to higher ground. It's the understanding that sometimes the storms in life are not just literal when you're out there on a lake or in the mountains, but there are storms, there are emotions. We can get so worked up and feel overwhelmed. The world is big, we're small. And there are situations we face that are really big. We know them personally. We also know them from our children, because children are even more in touch and experience the deeper feelings more fully. So what do children need? Children often, I remember, is pick me up, pick me up. When the dog is coming running or something, pick me up. This psalm is a pick-me-up psalm. Pick me up. I need your help. I need shelter. I want refuge. Lead me to higher ground, to the solid, safe place, safe house, for me to be safe. And that's something of the experience. You probably know Rock of Ages, the hymn. The story goes that Augustus Toplady, who wrote the hymn, was caught up in a storm, just walking in England along the road. He wanted to get from one place to the other. He was caught up in an awful storm. So all he could do is just run and hide, and there was a stone formation there, and he just tugged in and crawled in and tried to survive in this crevice, in this cleft. So from that's where the idea for him came, like, Rock of Ages, cleft for me, let me hide myself in thee. This hiding place, the safe place. When life storm come, when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel like it's getting too deep. We want to be lifted up. We want to be in a safe place. We want to be held and cozied. That's the experience of Elijah on the mountain too. Our passage in the Hebrew scripture describes that he's in a cave. Guess where our ancestors lived? Some men still do live in a cave. They emerge from time to time. So in the safety of the cage, Elijah is facing the storms, the weather, the earthquake, the volcanoes, the eruptions, and you could imagine the overwhelming feelings. Like Elijah is like, whoa, overwhelming. So, you ever watch scary movies with your children? It's getting scary and you see them moving closer to you, holding your hand and tucking in. So it's kind of, we come together, we hold on to each other, we need to be our safe place for one another and be together with one another in that. And that's the experience that Elijah has in the cave on the mountain. And we do not need to understand this passage literally, like, yes, there was a storm, yes, there was an earthquake, yes, there was fire and volcano. Have you ever experienced a person with an explosive personality trait? Like you try to walk on eggshells, not to set someone off. So how do we face the fire? How do we face situations? What if we grew up with someone, a parent who was explosive and we had to hide and protect ourselves and be covered? These scriptures speak to us. When we face overwhelming emotions, what do we do? How do we deal with them? We come together, we shelter each other, and we huddle together and hold on together in the hope and in the prayer that the living one holds us in and through it, that we're carried through it. It's like that other hymn, "Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, lead me home." The invitation is, when it's getting too deep, when I feel like sinking, when I feel overwhelmed, the invitation of the psalm is, take me to higher ground. It's the image of Noah and the ark. You're being flooded, you're overwhelmed, the feelings take over, it's kind of, help me. And we try to trust and hold on to each other and bring each other in God's presence to lift us up and to carry us through the storm, get us to higher ground where we're safe. Robert Johnson described that in and through all the darkness, in and through all the challenges, and in and through all the ups and downs of life, we're surrounded by a world that he describes as golden, the golden world. And he had experienced it himself as a teenager, 13 years old. He was walking just on the sidewalk to do some errands. Well, it happened, an accident pushed another car, and his knee got pinned in between the bumper of the car and the wall. And he said he had this golden world. Something broke open, something became visible to him that touched and moved him deeply. And that awareness stayed with him for the rest of his life. And he had several other experiences like that. You may remember Reverend Paul Cope had a similar experience. And you hear from people who sometimes, in very tragic, your world is crumbling, something else seemed to on occasion, break open. Rumi has a quote that the light enters into us through our wounds. So when we hurt, when we feel like we don't have it together, that's where the light wants to enter us. That's the story of the transfiguration for me. Peter, James, and John, together with Jesus, are on the mountain, and they discover there is this world, the golden world that surrounds us. It's there. We cannot always see it, but there are occasions in our lives where we experience it. It is there. Can we trust it? When Carl Jung was asked, at age 86, he had an interview with the BBC. They asked him, "Do you believe in God?" He looked and he said, "I know." And the interviewer asked him again, "Do you believe in God?" And he said, "I know," in a sense of, I know I have experienced the living God firsthand. I don't have to believe anymore because I know it in my bones. Take me to higher ground. When we're in the valley, do we trust? Do we open up and ask, "Pick me up, be with me"? Or do we at least get closer to one another and hold on to each other when life feels like we're flying by the seats of our pants because we don't have it all together? Do we trust and pay attention that the golden world, the world of God, is all around us? And what we often get are only glimpses, just a spark here or there. Sometimes so easy to overlook, but do you pay attention to that? So in and through the business, in and through the ups and downs of your week, I invite you, pay attention, for there is someone who wants to lift you up, to hold you, to shelter you. Under the shadow of your wings, there is a safe place for us. Will you trust that?